My beloved child, be still and listen to what I am placing within you. For the work I am doing in you is not only meant to lift you up from the days of weakness, nor merely to help you walk more firmly in this life. I am preparing you for a wider commission than you have ever imagined. There are seasons when I heal you in silence. Days when I touch the hidden places you thought no one could see. Nights when I dry the tears you have never told anyone about. But my child, all of this does not end with simply making you peaceful. I am making you into a vessel filled to overflowing, so that at the appointed time, gentleness, support, and hope will flow from you to those around you who are also dry and weary. Do not think that I see you only within the limits of what you lack. I see in you a door that can open for many others. I see within the pain you once endured a seed of compassion. I see within the times you stumbled a tenderness that the proud cannot possess. I see within the nights when you thought you had no strength left to go on, a calling being refined, so that later, when you meet someone who is falling apart, you will not look at them with eyes of judgment, but with a heart that has once been bandaged by me, because you have known what it means to tremble. You will learn how to hold the hand of one who trembles. Because you have passed through the deep valley, you will not be afraid to sit beside someone who is lost in the darkness. There were times when you asked why I led you through journeys that were not easy. You once thought that if I loved you, I should have removed from you every burden, every trial, every shadowed place that made you weary. But my beloved child, my love is not the kind of love that merely lulls you into comfort. My love is a pure fire, one that knows how to refine gold until it becomes pure, how to prune branches so they may bear much good fruit, how to lead you into deeper waters so you will not live only on the surface. I do not allow you to suffer so that you may be broken in vain. I do not permit trials to touch you so that you may be forgotten. I am present in every stage of the journey, quietly teaching you to depend, to listen, to humble yourself, to receive, and then to give. Therefore, when I heal you, I am also teaching you how to become a shelter, not a shelter that is noisy, showy, or self-exalting, but a gentle roof in another person's rain. One word spoken by you in kindness can calm a heart in a storm. One look from you without condemnation can help someone find enough courage to rise again. Your humble presence can speak to the one in despair and tell them that they are still loved, still seen, and still have a way to return. You do not need to have an answer for everything. You do not need to fix every circumstance. There are times when what I desire through you is simply a peaceful presence, a hand that does not quickly let go, a gentle reminder that my light has not gone out. I know you have feared this responsibility. You look back at yourself and still see many unfinished things. You see cracks, limitation, and insecurities still moving quietly within your heart. You secretly say that you are not strong enough to support anyone, not wise enough to guide anyone, not pure enough to be an instrument in my hand. But my child, you have forgotten that I do not choose an instrument because it shines by itself, but because I can pour my light through it. A lamp does not create fire on its own, it only needs to be lit. A stream does not create its own source, it only needs to remain connected to the spring. You are the same. What I require of you is not perfection according to human eyes, but willingness to let me use what you have, even the parts you once considered weak. Remember the young servant girl in Naaman's house. She had no status, no power, and she did not stand in a palace with a voice that echoed loudly. She was only a small person in a foreign land, carrying within her the memory of the God of her people. Yet her simple word opened the way for a powerful man to seek healing. Do you see? I do not need a great stage in order to reveal my power. I can use a small word, a trusting heart, a person who seems to have been placed in a lowly position, to lead someone to the waters of restoration. That story is not only about Naaman being cleansed, it is also about the way I used a quiet person as a bridge for grace to pass through. You, too, can be such a bridge, not because you stand out, but because you allow me to place gentle words in your mouth and mercy into each of your actions. Therefore, do not despise the things I have taught you in the hidden place. The years you thought were slow were not wasted time. The times you had to learn how to trust again were not signs of failure. The moments when you bowed your head in tears and still chose not to let go of me were the very places where I laid the foundation for the commission that would come later. One who has never been comforted can hardly understand the full value of comfort. One who has never been forgiven can hardly feel the depth of mercy. One who has never been lifted up can hardly know how to bend down and lift another with tenderness. But you have been touched by me through many different seasons, and each of those seasons is becoming a hidden treasure that you will bring forth at the right time. Yet, my beloved child, I also want you to understand that becoming a channel does not mean you must be drained by everyone. I have not called you to burn yourself out in endless striving. A river can only flow when it remains connected to its source. A lamp can only shine when it is kept in oil. Therefore, when you support others, always return to me. When you listen to someone's pain, do not carry it in your own strength, but place it before me. When you comfort the weary, do not forget that you, too, need to remain in my arms. I do not want you to become one who gives out of dryness, but one who gives out of the abundance that I continually pour into you. There will be people who come near you, not because you promote yourself, but because they recognize in you an unusual peace. They will sense that you are not hurried, not harsh, and that you do not use their pain to shame them. They will see in you a kind of light that does not blind the eyes, but is enough to guide them through a dark stretch of the road. When that happens, remember that every good thing flowing from you belongs to me. Do not keep the glory for yourself, and do not deny and fear what I am doing. Walk humbly, speak gently, love with purity. Let your life become a quiet invitation, so that whoever looks at it may sense that there is still a healer, still a merciful hand, still a path leading back to life. My beloved child, let your heart become still within my gentle calling, for I am opening before you a path that is no longer like the old paths. The days when you thought you were only trying to endure were in fact the days when I was quietly training you in perseverance. The nights when you thought your tears were falling without meaning were in fact moments when I gathered every drop like seed for the harvest to come. The times when you thought you had been left behind were in fact moments when I was hiding you under the shadow of my wings, so you would not be swallowed by the fierce winds. You have never walked alone. Even when you could not feel my hand, I was there in the silence, in the emptiness, in every trembling breath, in every time you stood up, though no one was there to comfort you. And now, I want you to understand that the season you have just passed through is not the end, but the threshold of a new sending. Do not look at the trials of the past as proof that you are weak or forgotten. Look at them as steps I placed beneath your feet so you could rise higher in maturity. There are things you cannot learn in easy peace. There are strengths that cannot be born when everything is convenient. There is a kind of faith that only becomes steadfast when you have stood in the dark night and still chosen to call upon my name. I do not rejoice when I see you in pain, but I know how to turn the things that cracked you into places where light can shine through. I do not let the storm define you. I use the storm to reveal that within you there is a faith not easily swept away. Therefore, my child, do not continue living like one who only hopes to get through the day. I did not create you merely to exist in fear, avoiding each wave, gathering small pieces of peace only to lose them again. I am calling you to step forward with the posture of one who has been entrusted with a part in my great plan. You are not a shadow in the story of the world. You are not an outsider standing by while everything unfolds. You are one whom I know clearly, call by name, preserve, and send forth each time you choose faith instead of surrender, each time you pray instead of giving up, each time you forgive instead of letting your heart grow hard. You are cooperating with my light in a deeper way than you realize. Perhaps you once thought your life was too small to make an impact. Perhaps the voice of doubt whispered that you are only an ordinary person, with nothing significant, unable to change anything. But my beloved child, I have never measured your worth by the applause of the crowd. I do not need you to stand in the highest places before I can use you. A hidden prayer can open a door that natural eyes have not yet seen. A small step of obedience can push back darkness along a long road. A faithful heart in a place no one knows is still recognized by heaven. What you do in secret is not lost. It rises before me like the fragrance of trust. Remember that those whom I used throughout history did not always begin with a strong appearance. Many trembled, hesitated, and did not understand why I was calling them. But what made them different was not that they were never weak, but that they did not turn away from me when the road became hard to understand. There were those who passed through deep waters while an enemy stood behind them and the impossible lay ahead. There were those who walked around a fortified city in obedience, though that strategy seemed strange in human eyes. There were those who endured loss, humiliation, and waiting, yet still kept their hearts turned toward me. They are not remembered because their lives had no scratches, but because amid those scratches, faith still burned like a lamp in the night. And now, I place you within that same current, not so you may imitate another person's journey, but so you may recognize that your faith also carries weight in my hand. You do not know all the walls that are shaking when you persevere in prayer. You do not see all the chains that are weakening when you choose to stand in truth. You cannot measure how many people will be lifted because of your endurance today. But I see every hidden battle, every quiet decision. Every time you reject a lie in order to hold on to what I have spoken over you, you think you are only struggling to survive, but in truth you are learning how to reign over fear through trust. Let me remind you of Esther, who seemed to have been placed in the palace merely because circumstances had carried her there. She could have chosen silence in order to protect her own safety. She could have hidden behind luxurious curtains and pretended that the suffering of her people had nothing to do with her. But at the decisive hour, she understood that the place where she stood was not accidental. She stepped into courage, not because she knew everything would be easy, but because she recognized a calling greater than personal safety. A woman who seemed to stand alone became the key that opened the way of deliverance for an entire people. Do you see? Sometimes I place you in a place, a season, a relationship, or a trial, not so you may hide forever, but so that at the right time you may rise with wisdom and trust. Likewise, the places where you stand today are not accidental. The people you meet are not random. The burdens you feel in your heart are not meant to crush you, but to awaken intercession, compassion, and courage within you. I do not tell you to rush ahead of my timing, nor do I want you to act out of pressure or fear of missing out. But I want you to be watchful. When I open a door, walk through it. When I place a word in your heart, speak it with gentleness. When I call you to stand firm, do not bow your head before the threats of darkness. When I tell you to wait, wait in peace, because waiting in me is never in vain. From now on, do not allow the old lies to guide you anymore. They once told you that you were not good enough, not strong enough, not clean enough, not worthy enough. They once made you wander in self-blame. in doubt, in the feeling of being so small that no one needed you. But I speak to you with the love of a father. You belong to me. And what belongs to me is not defined by darkness. You have been preserved through many days you thought you could not survive. You have been lifted after times when you nearly collapsed. You have been taught through tears and strengthened in silence. Now is not the time to return to the old chains. Now is the time to walk as one who knows they have been called out of darkness to live in the light. Even so, my beloved child, remember that being sent does not mean you must become hard in the way of the world. I do not want you to lose your tenderness. I do not want you to use your own strength to prove that you are strong. The strength I give is a strength that knows how to kneel, how to listen, how to keep the heart pure, how to stand firm while remaining full of mercy. You can be steadfast without becoming bitter. You can be courageous without becoming proud. You can enter the battle of faith and still keep within you the gentleness of grace. The one I send does not carry light in order to burn others, but to guide, to warm, and to bear witness that I am still at work. I know the world around you keeps pulling at you. Each day there are countless voices trying to claim your attention, the voice of responsibility, the voice of expectation, the voice of fear, the voice of comparison, the voice of unfinished things. Sometimes, as soon as you open your eyes, you feel as though you have been swept into a rushing current, from one task to another, one piece of news to another, one worry to another. Then at the end of the day, you find your heart exhausted and still do not understand why. My child, I do not blame you for being tired. I do not rebuke you for being distracted. I gently call you back, like a father standing at the open door, waiting for the child who has wandered too far into the noise. I want you to understand that you were not created to live continually in agitation. You were created to know me, to be near me, to recognize my warmth in cold seasons, and to hear my wisdom amid countless chaotic words. Therefore, learn to set apart for me moments of silence that are not divided, not as a dry obligation, but as an appointment of love. It may be a morning when you sit quietly before the day begins. It may be an afternoon when you turn down the sounds outside in order to listen to what is moving within. It may be a few minutes at night, when you no longer try to explain everything, but simply place yourself before me. In those moments, you do not need to speak much. You do not need to present every worry in long words. You only need to be present with me, honest, unhidden, without forcing yourself, without rushing. That stillness is not an empty space without meaning. It is a holy room, where your heart is gradually opened to know me more closely, more truly, more tenderly. There are times when you think that in order to hear my voice, you must become someone deeply exalted, that you must reach some level of perfection, that you must no longer be weak, no longer make mistakes, no longer waver. But my beloved child, I do not speak to you because you are perfect. I speak to you because you belong to me. A child recognizes the voice of their father not because they understand everything about sound, but because they have been held by him many times, called by name, comforted, and led along familiar paths. A voice becomes dear through nearness. In the same way, the more you remain with me, the more you will recognize how I lead you. You will know which voice causes you to fear and shrink back, and which voice lifts you in truth. You will know which word pressures you into confusion, and which gentle yet firm reminder comes from me. My language does not always come as a thunderous declaration. Often I speak through an unexpected peace that covers you when you are confused. You thought you could not endure anymore, and yet in a moment, your heart is calmed like a lake after a strong wind. Often I speak through a quiet restraint, causing you to slow down before a decision that seems attractive but is not pure. Often I speak through a gentle prompting, drawing you out of anger so you choose forgiveness instead of causing harm. Often I speak through a small reminder in your mind, an image that suddenly appears, a timely word of counsel from an upright person, a deep sense that you should wait a little longer, let go, step forward, or return. You do not need to seek dazzling signs before believing that I am present. I often come in the quietest things, because what is quiet can touch you more deeply than noise. Remember young Samuel when he was in the temple. That night, everything around him was still. The lamp in the holy place had not yet gone out, and the boy had not yet learned to recognize my call. When I called his name, he thought it was the voice of his old teacher. He ran to ask, then returned, then heard the call again. Through guidance, he learned to answer with willingness. Do you see? Even those I call need to learn how to discern my voice. I was not angry because Samuel did not recognize me immediately. I patiently called again and again until he knew how to listen. It is the same with you. I do not blame you for the times you are confused, for the times you miss it, or for the days when the noise of life covers my voice. I patiently teach you little by little. What I seek in you is not the ability to understand everything immediately, but a heart that knows how to return and say, I am listening. From that place, you will learn precious discernment. Not every strong emotion is my guidance. Not every open opportunity is the path I want you to enter. Not every voice that seems reasonable brings life. There are words that make you hurry, make you fear being left behind, make you feel you must prove your worth through tension. Such words do not carry my fragrance. My guidance may require courage from you, but it will not throw you into chaos. My correction may touch your mistakes, but it will not crush you in shame. My calling may lead you out of what is familiar, but it will still keep within you a deep axis of peace. The more you become familiar with staying near me, the more you will recognize that mark: purity, steadiness, love, truth, and fullness of life. Therefore, do not seek me only in times of crisis. Learn to hear me in ordinary days. Bring me into every small choice, every conversation, every task, every unspoken concern. When you begin a new day, entrust that day to me before you surrender your heart to the noise. When you are wounded, come to me before bitterness takes its place. When you stand before a decision, let your heart become still long enough for my wisdom to shine upon it. When you succeed, be still and give thanks, so your joy does not become pride. When you fail, sit beside me, so you will not condemn yourself with words I never spoke. Each of those small moments will train the ear within you, so that you will not only hear me in the sanctuary, but also hear me in the kitchen, on the road, in your work, amid tears, amid laughter, amid the most ordinary things of life. My beloved child, I know there have been seasons when you grew weary of yourself. You have looked at the things in you that still had not changed and sighed. You promised yourself that this time you would be different. This time you would be stronger. This time you would not return to the old path again. You gathered all your willpower to stand up, tried to tighten your heart so you would not stumble, tried to keep a smile on your face while everything inside was tangled, tried to say you were fine when in truth you were trembling. I saw all those hidden battles. I saw the moments you told no one about, the times you blamed yourself because you had failed again, the times you thought perhaps you would always remain that way, forever trapped in the same cycle. forever returning to the same weakness, forever unable to become the person you long to be. But, my child, today I do not come to condemn you. I come to remind you that true renewal does not begin with your striving, but with your abiding in me. There are things you thought determination alone could accomplish. You thought that if you were stricter with yourself, if you made more promises, if you tried to control every emotion, then you would change. But then, only one small event, one word that touched an old wound, one sudden fear rising up, one familiar temptation passing by, and you found yourself shaken again. In those moments, you asked why you were so weak. You asked why you knew what was right and still could not do it. Why you knew what needed to be released and still held on tightly. Why you knew you needed peace, and yet your heart still surged like waves. Why you knew you needed to forgive, and yet old memories still ached. My beloved child, I want you to understand, this does not mean you are hopeless. It simply shows you that you were not created to save yourself by your own strength. Change that is forced by your own effort often only touches the surface. It is like trying to wipe the leaves clean while the roots beneath remain dry. For a short time, everything may seem better. But when the fierce sun comes, when the strong wind blows, and when pressure gathers, the tree withers again because it has not been connected to the source of life. I do not want you to merely change your outward appearance for a moment. I want to renew you from the hidden places, where fears were formed, where wounds left their marks, where habits took root, where lies once found shelter. I do not only want you to stop an action, I want you to be free from the power that pulled you toward that action. I do not only want you to remain silent when you are angry, I want you to be healed, so anger no longer rules your heart. I do not only want you to speak words of forgiveness, I want the inside of you to be truly released from the chains of bitterness. Therefore, what I invite you into is not trying harder in the old way, but drawing nearer to me. Abide in me as a branch abides in the vine, as a small stream abides in the spring, as a child abides in the arms of the Father. A branch does not force itself to bear fruit through tension. It bears fruit because life quietly flows through it day by day. A flower does not strain to bloom. It opens when it is nourished by light, good soil, and timely rain. You are the same. You cannot create lasting renewal if you keep separating yourself from my presence. But when you abide, when you allow my word to soak into your thoughts, my love to soften the places that have grown hard, and my peace to guard the waves within, you will realize that there are things gradually changing in ways that even you will find surprising. Perhaps you want everything to happen quickly. You want to wake up one morning and find that every bad habit has disappeared. Every wound no longer hurts. Every old reaction no longer appears. I understand that longing, but my beloved child, I often work like a patient gardener rather than like one who merely wants to change outward appearance in an instant. I dig the soil, pull out weeds, water, prune, protect the young shoots from harsh sunlight, and wait for the fruit to ripen in its proper season. There are things I change within you so gently that at first you do not notice. Then one day, you will see that you no longer react as harshly as before. One day, you will realize that the fear which once choked you is no longer as loud as it used to be. One day, you will be surprised that you can pray for the one who wounded you. One day, you will see that peace is no longer a rare moment, but has become a place to which you know how to return. Remember Peter, the one who boldly said he would not fall, yet in the hour of fear denied his master. If someone looked only at that moment, they might think he had failed completely. He once wept bitterly, faced the shame within himself, and saw clearly the distance between his promise and his true strength. But I did not leave him in that place of failure. Christ came to him after the resurrection, not to crush him with condemnation, but to restore him with love. By the lakeshore, around a simple meal, Peter was called again, not because he had never done wrong, but because grace was greater than his fall. Lauder, that same man who had once trembled, stood up with strength, shepherded many, and bore witness with a new courage. Do you see? True transformation did not come from Peter's promises, but from his restoration and his abiding in my love. That story is also for you. I do not define you by the time you fell. I do not call you by the name of your old habit. I do not look at you through your weakest moment and conclude that you can no longer be used. I look at you through my redeeming love. I see what you will become when you allow me to lead you day by day. Therefore, when you stumble, do not run away from me. When you see your weakness again, do not hide yourself in shame. When you fail, do not build a wall of self-condemnation and think I am standing far away. Return at once. Speak to me honestly. Place into my hands the thing you cannot overcome. The very place where you stop hiding is where healing begins. The very place where you admit that you need me is where new strength begins to flow. I also want you to understand that abiding in me is a rhythm of life, not merely a moment of emotion. You abide when you choose prayer instead of letting anxiety carry you away. You abide when you pause before anger and let me soften the words you are about to speak. You abide when you bring painful memories before me instead of letting them silently control the way you love. You abide when you nourish yourself with what is pure. Turn away from voices that weaken you and seek the things that make your heart bright. You abide when you do not seek me only in emergencies, but allow me to enter even the smallest parts of your day, the way you think, the way you respond, the way you rest, the way you treat yourself and others. Each choice to return to me is a cord drawing you closer to the source of life. So, my beloved child, do not despair when the process of change is slower than you hoped. Do not despise small steps. One word you no longer speak in anger is a sign of grace. One time you pause before temptation is a seed of freedom. One moment when you choose forgiveness even while tears still fall is a door being opened. One day when fear no longer leads you as it once did is evidence that I am at work. I do not require you to complete everything by yourself overnight. I only invite you to continue abiding, to continue opening your heart, to continue letting me touch the places you once closed off. My child, I am your source of life. Away from me, you easily grow tired because you must hold yourself up alone. In me, you are nourished by strength that does not come from human beings. Away from me, you try to change through pressure and fear. In me, you are renewed through love and truth. Away from me, you see only repeated failures. In me, you begin to see the young shoots of a new person growing within you. Let me do what you cannot do for yourself. Let me teach you peace from within, forgiveness from the fountain of grace, purity through the strength that is given, and freedom to walk without being pulled back by the past. You do not need to strain in order to prove that you can. You only need to abide in me. And from that abiding, your life will bear fruit in its proper season. Beautiful, lasting, and filled with the fragrance of life.